We turn now to our panel. Political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns is up in Manchester, New Hampshire, and chief election and campaign correspondent Robert Costa is here with us in studio. His flight to the Granite State is later today. Caitlin, let's start with you. As we spoke earlier to Nikki Haley, the former governor, finished third in Iowa. She was 30 percentage points behind there. She's behind Trump in New Hampshire. What are the voters telling you?
Yeah, New Hampshire has always been kind of the hope for losers in Iowa because the electorate here is very different. 40% or so are registered as undeclared or independent. So that provides some favorable terrain. But I will say Republican sources that I've been talking to here on the ground still acknowledge that this is going to be an uphill climb for Haley. Yes, she's able to compete with independent voters with this message of trying to turn the page from both Biden and Trump. But it's still a tall order because Trump has such a hold on the Republican base of support here. So she will have to overperform with independent voters. And that also is no sure bet because if you remember, in 2016, Donald Trump won with independent voters. So it's a nuanced group, and she's going to have to get every last one to show up in a Republican primary.
Well, in his many criticisms, Donald Trump has said that Nikki Haley's supporters are Democrats. What's the reality of the crossover vote?
Yeah, and to be clear, Democrats cannot vote in the Republican primary here. They would have had to switch their party registration back in October. That was the deadline. And we did see about 4,000 Democrats, according to the Secretary of State, did switch their party registration to Republican or undeclared. But that's still about a half percentage point of the general electorate here. I will say, talking to supporters of Nikki Haley, I've talked to a lot of them who are undeclared or independent voters, and overwhelmingly they have told me that they believe that they see their vote as a vote against Trump, not necessarily a vote for Haley. So the enthusiasm question, are enough of them going to show up in a Republican primary?
And you'll be bringing us the results. Caitlin, thanks for that. Bob, you're here in studio as we talk about being able to motivate and coalesce around a candidate. As I asked Governor Haley, it looks like the establishment's lining up behind Donald Trump. 26 senators, all of the House Republican leadership. Why?
To build off Caitlin's excellent reporting and to go back to that question you asked Ambassador Haley, where is the Republican establishment? The Republican establishment, my sources on Capitol Hill in both the House and the Senate, they say privately and sometimes even publicly, they no longer run the Republican Party. The voters run the Republican Party, and many of those voters are inclined toward former President Donald Trump. So inside the House, you have the Speaker behind the former president, and in the Senate, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, for example, he has said repeatedly, publicly, that he does not want to get involved in the Republican primary race. And so many donors who are sources of mine say they're waiting to see if Haley can come within single digits of Trump in New Hampshire, and maybe they will start to pour millions more into her campaign. But at this point, they're moving toward acceptance of Trump being the nominee.
And of course, Leader McConnell had a very troubled relationship with the president, the former president, when he was in office. What about Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida? Can he last? We're talking about this as a Haley-Trump matchup. Where's DeSantis?
Many Republicans are watching how he's changing his schedule, seemingly by the hour. He's trying to focus right now in South Carolina, but our reporting shows there is a debate among his allies about whether he has a path ahead and whether he should stay in the race.
What'll decide that?
It's ultimately going to come down to his conversations with his wife, Casey, and his inner circle. And it's also going to come down to money. Is there enough money to fund him going into Super Tuesday?
We've been talking to Governor Whitmer about her very key state of Michigan. What are you hearing from your sources about just the level of concern among Democrats about whether they can keep it in 2024?
Democrats and Republicans, everybody's watching Michigan. It's so important. You were on the ground there talking to Whitmer, who's on the front lines for President Biden. But also Republicans are wondering, can they start to win over suburban voters in Michigan on issues like the economy? Can they win over working voters who may not buy the Biden administration's position on industrial policy? This is the swing state. And there is concern that younger voters in Michigan, especially because of the issue with Palestine, are getting alarmed about their support for Biden.
And we heard some of that as well. Bob, thank you